It. So, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. I have been looking forward to tonight's event. So, we get a spreadsheet every week of all of the events that we've got booked. And when I saw Aaron's name pop up on our schedule, I immediately called publicity and I said, I'll host, I'll host, I'll host, because I have been a huge fan of Aaron's, God, almost as long, I think, if not as long as I've been in this industry, which is about 20 years. So thank you so much, Aaron, for giving us books that it just brings so much joy into our lives and laughter, and books that we love to share with our readers. And I don't care whether the reader is 6 or 106. They're just fun books to share, and they bring so much light and joy into our lives that you can't go wrong. So, Aaron, thank you so much for being here tonight. Your new series, Spark Quest, is just as laugh out loud funny as Rex Dexter was. I was telling Aaron that I own a copy of Rex Dexter that's coffee stained because I snorted coffee through my nose. I was laughing so hard.
Objective achieved.
Yes, exactly. So, thank you, Aaron, for being here. Thank you for giving us great books that bring us laughter into our lives and, give us the joy of sharing books with those favorite readers in our lives. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thanks, Kathleen, and thanks to Anderson's, as always, my favorite independent bookstore, for having me here tonight. Yeah, I try. It's thrilling to hear that. I'm glad that that's the case. I try to write books that I feel like are contagious. I was not a big reader as a kid. We'll get into my book a little bit in a little bit, but if we go back in time a little bit, I was not a big reader as a kid. I did not love books, and I think most books that I came across just seemed, I don't know. I think in general, like the whole idea of reading seemed like I was kind of a rowdy kid, like all this, but pint size, right? And that was me as a kid. So reading just seemed so like quiet and just like that's something quiet kids do, like snuggle in a beanbag chair and read your book, and I just didn't think that was my thing. I didn't think I was going to be excited for books. And so for ages as a kid, I did not love books. And that was true, like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, did not love books, never was reading. Third grade, did not love books. Fourth grade, did not love books. And then everything changed for me my fifth grade year. That was a huge year for me. And I think for two big reasons. One was that I had this amazing teacher. His name was Mr. Hunter. If you've ever seen me talk before, I talk about him a lot because he was a huge inspiration in my life. In fact, I have a picture. Yeah, I have a picture. Okay, this is my fifth grade class right there. And there's Mr. Hunter right there. And let's see if we can find me. Let's see. Oh, it's baby Aaron. It's little baby Aaron. Oh, it's little baby fifth grade Aaron. Yeah. Oh, look at that hair. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I was adorable even back then, only I had hair. And when you look at that picture, you know why I don't wear hair anymore. Yeah. Okay. So, Mr. Hunter, he was a teacher who loved books. And he loved books so much that he would read to us out loud every single day. Now, up till fifth grade, I had never been read to out loud, ever. Like just growing up, my mom and dad didn't really read to us. We weren't really a book family. So I just, I had never really heard a book read out loud. But I still remember that first week of fifth grade. I still remember that first book that Mr. Hunter read out loud to us. It was a book called Ramona the Pest. Hopefully that's right side out. I'm not flipped backwards, but Ramona the Pest. And I remember sitting there, he's reading the story, and I'm like getting all caught up in the story, and I am like feeling strange emotions, man. And he'd get to the end of his chapter. He'd read one chapter each day, and then he takes a little bookmark, and he puts a little bookmark in a little book, and close up his little book. There's a little book on the corner of his desk where it lived until tomorrow. And I was like, how am I supposed to sleep tonight? Like, I need to know what happens next. Okay, from that moment forward, I was nuts for books. Like I really was like, wait, this is books? like, this is what books are like. Like, I didn't know, like, this is kind of rowdy and funny and goofy, and not all books are just in a quiet bag chair. I mean, like, books can be loud and rowdy and like me. And so I wanted more. And so I went to the library and I found the other books that Beverly Cleary wrote, which Mr. Hunter had read that one to us, and they were awesome. They were good. But I wanted even more rowdy. I wanted rowdy, exciting books, and so I kept going back to the library, and then I discovered a book that changed everything. It was this book. It was called James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl. And when I discovered Roald Dahl, my world was rocked, because this was a guy who wrote like rowdy books, right? And like sometimes like the bad grown-ups in the story like got what was coming to them, right? They were kind of like dark sometimes, and even like for a kid, like where you were only reading books where everybody lived happily ever after, like they seemed a little naughty to me. It's like the two bad ants get totally killed by the peach. That is so dark. I love it, right? So I read everything Roald Dahl read, and I kept reading Roald Dahl, and kept realizing there were so many books out there for a rowdy kid like me. And then I discovered the thing that led me to the second life-changing thing that happened in fifth grade. I discovered a book late in my fifth grade year called The Hobbit. And it was kind of my first introduction to fantasy. I'd never really read fantasy, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. I'd seen action movies and fantasy movies. Like, remember the Beastmaster, right? Like when I was like in fifth grade, I was like, oh, it's on HBO every day. I'm gonna watch the Beastmaster and the original Conan the Barbarian. But I had never read a fantasy book, and like there are orcs and goblins and battles and riddles being solved. And I really started to get a taste for fantasy because I started reading The Hobbit. So that was the first huge thing, fifth grade, is that Mr. Hunter read to us, and he opened that door for a rowdy kid like me to realize maybe I do like books. Up till now, all the things that grown-ups have been sticking in my hand and saying, these are books, I've looked at them and go, well, I don't really care for those. So if those are books, then I guess I don't like books. But suddenly my eyes were open to the fact that there were all kinds of books, even for a rowdy kid like me. So that was the first thing that happened. Mr. Hunter opened the door to books for me. The second thing happened in fifth grade was the summer after fifth grade. And I was hanging out with my friend Andy, and we were over at Andy's house one day, and his brother called us in and he said, hey, I'm playing this game. I need you guys to come in and play. And it was a game I had never heard of before called Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, now don't freak out. But I was like, what is this? And it turned out it was about imagination. It was about dragons and monsters and becoming a character. And really looking back, what it was really about is storytelling, making up your own story, but in a game. Instead of like rolling dice and moving pieces, you rolled dice and you invented what happened next. I had never played that game before, but after playing that day, I played every single day for the rest of that summer with Andy and his older brother. We played Dungeons and Dragons from morning till dinner time every single day. And I played it for years afterwards. And I can tell you, I still play Dungeons and Dragons. These days, the books look a little different. Instead of looking like this, all old school, and that's like my original 1979, 1980 maybe monster manual. These days they look all fancy and fancy art like this. But I still play Dungeons and Dragons. I play every Monday night with a group, even now. And that game opened my eyes to imagination, opened my eyes to storytelling, opened my eyes to a whole world of possibilities. And as I played more and more, and as I became a dungeon master and started leading the game more and more, I began to invent these worlds and these stories that me and my players would play through. And I know it's so exciting that Dungeons and Dragons is so huge right now, because back then, you're a little geek who was lucky if he could find somebody else to play D&D with them. And if you haven't played and you get excited about imagination, I encourage you, find a group. It's easy these days, and play. And I really believe that those two things that happened my 5th grade year are what made me eventually become an author. They were the foundational two things that, as I look back and I think, how did I become an author? How did a kid who hates books become a grown-up who creates books for his whole job? And it was two things. One is I wanted Mr. Hunter opened my eyes to books that were exciting to me, books that were contagious, not just I'm a grown up and here's a book that's considered a proper book, but that it was okay to read what I liked. It was okay, and those counted. Those were real books. The things that made me excited, those counted. That opened me up. That suddenly I could say, I'm a reader. That was huge. But then the second thing was I started playing this game, Dungeons and Dragons, and I fell in love with fantasy, and I fell in love with imagination. And as I got older and older and older, I didn't want to let my imagination go. I didn't want to grow up and just have to be serious all the time. I wanted to stay imaginative. My wife calls it now, she says I'm professionally immature. So yeah, I wanted to be professionally immature. And so looking back, I can tell you quite clearly that those two things were like training ground, boot camp for me, that eventually, I couldn't have told you then, but eventually led me to becoming an author now. Somebody who tries to create books that I would have loved as a kid, books that are contagious, books that are funny, hopefully, books that are exciting, even to that rowdy kid who might look at a book and go, not my thing, not my thing. That's the kind of stuff I want to create. I am very excited this year about two books that have come out. In fact, a whole series that has come out, because not only is it my first year of releasing middle grade chapter books, very exciting. Up till now, this year, I'd been writing strictly picture books and graphic novels. So not only do I now have a chapter book series, but this year my first fantasy series launched. And this series is called Fart Quest, and here's book 1. The book 2 we're celebrating today is the second one in the series. It's called Fart Quest Level 2, The Barf of the Bedazzler. And it is really my love letter to all things fantasy and all things Dungeons and Dragons. It's my heart love letter back to my 5th grade self to say, you didn't know it then, but that game you played every day, 5th grade, the summer of your 5th grade year, that game is going to change your life, and you're going to get to create stories like that you did for fun. You're going to get to do that for your whole job. And it's kind of my love letter back to Mr. Hunter too, to say, hey, you didn't know what you were doing then. You were just reading books because you loved books, but you changed a kid entirely for his whole life by simply letting him know that it was okay to read what he liked to read. So Fart Quest is a fantasy adventure comedy. Of course, anything I write, I'm probably going to try and make it funny because I like to laugh. And it is full of fantasy and action and adventure. It has got mighty warriors and powerful wizards. It has strong girl characters, very strong, powerful girl characters. It has its fair share of potty humor, and it's got at least one metric buttload of monsters. And so book 1 is out already. You can pick it up now. Book 2 is today. It came out today. Like today is its book birthday. Oh, like happy birthday, Fart Quest book 2. Oh, you'll get cake later. Yeah. Okay. And so I think it's hard. It's tricky to talk about a book 2 in a series because you kind of have to already know a little bit about book 1, don't you? So I think what I'd love to do is I'd love to introduce you to Fart Quest. And as much as I'd love to just dive in and read book 2, because I'm super excited about the barf of the bedazzler, I think I got to start with book 1, just read a little bit of it. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to read just a little excerpt, a little portion for you, to just give you a taste, give you a flavor. I'm not going to start at chapter 1 because that's boring. Like everybody starts chapter 1. You'll get the book, you'll read it, you'll start at chapter 1. I'm going to start with chapter 6. And what happens is this. The story is about 3 kids. This kid here, his name is Bartok, but his nickname is Fart. And if once you start reading, you'll understand how I got that nickname. He when it came time to pick his first spell, out of all the spells he could choose, I mean, there was magic missile, there was cone of frost, there was fireball, there was all these spells. He chose gas attack. That's the spell he picked because gas is funny. Yeah, that's yeah. He's kind of like the apprentice wizard version of me as a 5th grader. Yeah, and so his master begins to call him Fart for his nickname. So that's Fart. He's a young human wizard. There's Pan. She's right here. She's an elven monk. Has ability to control the elements, fire and water and earth and air. There's Moxie. Oh, here, she is a dwarven warrior, very powerful, and knows everything there is to know about monsters. And so together they set out from their school, their hero school, Krakentop Academy for Heroes, out into the world, accompanied by their masters to kind of get their training wheels, kind of learn about this hero's life in the real world before they are set loose to become heroes on their own. Well, while they are out, doing their hero wilderness training, their masters are obliterated in a goblin attack gone horribly wrong. And Pan and Fart and Moxie are left to decide, what do we do now? Our masters are gone. Do we go back to school in shame, tail tucked between our legs, or do we keep going? Do we go out and try to make a hero, make a go of this hero thing all on our own? Can we do that? And so that's what they're trying to decide to do when an encounter comes their way. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and jump over so that you can follow along. And this is chapter 6 of Fart Quest, book 1. Get behind me, Moxie roars. She lifts Master Redmane's warhammer and shield. Emerging from the cave is the biggest goblin I've ever seen. And then I realize it's not a goblin. This dude is all hobgoblin. He must be the chief of this goblin goon squad, the head honcho, the end boss. The hobgoblin grips a club the size of a tree trunk. He sends it swinging straight at Moxie, and blammo! Her shield goes flying. But the hobgoblin's not the one making all the roary racket. He's got an owl bear. Owl bear. Part owl, part bear. Duh. 10 feet of out of control attitude. Stinks like decomposing armpit wrapped in a rancid tortilla. Claws that just won't quit until you're dead. Do you know any spells? Pan asks. Yes, I say indignantly. I am a mage. Besides fart attack, feather friend, I say sheepishly. I can talk to birds. Well, that's going to be perfect if we ever need to have a deep, meaningful conversation with a chicken, she says grimly. I feel about as worthless as a snot sandwich. I can also cast Cozy Camp. I hang my head in shame. It just makes a small campfire. But Pan's eyes light up. Do it. I look at Moxie. She's getting smacked silly by the hobgoblin's monstrous stick of doom. Do it! Pan roars. She startles me back to my senses. I close my eyes and try to remember the words that scuttle from my brain like spiders. Flimity flimesh, I mutter, pointing at a dead branch that lies on the ground. Instantly, the branch flickers into flame. Pan yells at Moxie to hit the dirt. Pan whispers some kind of chant, and immediately my tiny fire roars to life. It multiplies times 2, times 3. times 10. We are suddenly surrounded by a wall of licking flames, an 8-foot-high inferno. Pan waves her hand, and the blaze roars towards the hobgoblin, swallowing him whole. After a minute, Pan sweeps her hands to snuff out the fire. The ground is covered in wafting smoke, and one crispy fried hobgoblin. Superheroic achievement! Defeat a hobgoblin. 200 experience points awarded. Pan and Moxie look at each other and breathe simultaneous sighs of relief. Except we've forgotten a small feathery problem. And when I say small feathery problem, I mean, about 1,000 pounds of owlbear. The owlbear is charging full speed. There's no question. Fancy outfits or not, we are in deep doo-doo. And then it hits me. Maybe I'm not quite as worthless as a snot sandwich. Get behind me! I hear myself roar. Somehow, there's no need to concentrate this time. I find that the words to my feather friend spell are instantly on my tongue. Featherfax! Pfeffernutter! I spread my arms and I shout, please stop! Except some kind of hooty, chirpy sounds come out instead. The owlbear slows down. Why should I stop? Roars the owlbear. It's all hoots and tweets to Pan and Moxie, but magically, I understand every word, which, let's be honest, feels super cool. The bad dude who enslaved you is dead, I say to the owlbear. You're free. Free, it hoots. Free as the wind blows. Yeah, free as a summer breeze. Sure. Free as a spring rainfall. I guess. My first conversation with an owlbear, and I get one with the heart of a poet. The piercing owl eyes stare hard at me. Why not just destroy all of you anyway? I'll still be free. I guess you could, I hoot, but let's be honest, that's not going to end well for any of us. The owlbear turns to Moxie, who is gripping her hammer ferociously. It sees Pan poised for action, bow staff at the ready. It turns its jumbo beak back to me and bristles its feathers. The goblins are all dead, it asks. Yep, I answer. Good. It looks at the thicket of trees in the distance and turns back to us. This is my forest now. I hold my hands up. All yours, I say. Run free like, the wind and rain and stuff. The owlbear rears up on its hind legs and lets out a... I brace myself for my imminent gruesome death. But the owlbear turns, shambles into the forest, and disappears. Superheroic achievement! Sweet talk, an owlbear. 100 experience points awarded. I hear clapping. I slowly turn around. Moxie is applauding me. It's a new sensation. I could get used to this. Pan relaxes and calmly shoulders her pack. You know what? What? I ask. I hear experience is the best teacher, she says, almost smiling. I turn to Moxie. Her goofy smile is even bigger than before. And so is mine. 3 grinning idiots. That's us. Because it's official. We are now heroes for hire. And that is the end of chapter 6. Ooh! You want to know what happens next? You really want to know what happens next? Okay. Action happens next. Adventure happens next. Teamwork happens next. Riddles and puzzles happen next. And at least one metric buttload of monsters. So that is your brief introduction to Fart Quest. Brief as it was, there is one way that you can find out all the adventure that happens between Fart and Pan and Moxie in Fart Quest, and that is to pick up a copy of your own. Don't just pick it up anywhere, though. Don't just go online to some online place and pick it up. No, no, no. You want to pick it up at your favorite independent bookstore, Anderson's Bookstore. Yeah, yeah. And as if that wasn't enough, you don't even have to read this and be like, oh, I liked it, and I wish there was another one, because boom, book 2 is out. Book 2, Fart Quest Level 2, The Barf of the Bedazzler, finds Pan, Moxie, and Fart in a whole new seaside nautical adventure on the quest to find a mysterious item called the Barf of the Bedazzler. So if you like fantasy, if you like action, adventure, if you like laughing, if you like strong girl characters, if you like monsters, I hope you will pick up these copies of these books and have your own copies to read. And even more than that, I hope that you will put them in the hands of some kids that you know. I hope that these books become contagious for those kids in your life that may be sitting around going, I'm kind of rowdy, I'm kind of loud, I kind of, my energy sometimes gets me into trouble sometimes. Most of the times grown-ups tell me, like, no, put that book that you like away, because that's not a real book. This is a real book. And so I've kind of decided maybe I don't like books. I hope you'll put these in the hands of those kids. I hope they will become contagious for them. I hope, like Mr. Hunter did for me, I hope it will open their eyes to the fact that no matter what kind of books that they like, they are readers too. And I hope you will stay tuned for the adventures of Fart and Pan and Moxie, because I just finished book 4. So book 3 is yet to come out this fall. Book 4 comes out a year from now, next spring. More fartastic adventures coming your way for you and all your kids. I hope you'll pick them up, and I hope you will read them. And I hope more than anything, you'll pass them on to the kids, every kid that you can think of in your life. You guys, it's always such a pleasure to hang out at Anderson's, especially on a cold night like tonight, where I can just like do it like right here in my own house. It's extra special that way, I think. Yeah. But no visit to Anderson's would be complete without having a chance to hang out with you guys, maybe answer a few questions for those of you that have come to hang out with me tonight. And so I'm going to hand things back to Kathleen. She's going to join me here on the screen. Poof, it's like magic. And she is going to lead us through this kind of Q&A time. So she'll give you instructions on how to get your question out there, get it known. I'm going to stick around and answer some questions as long as you guys have them coming. So I hope you'll stick around with me and hang out.
Well, and thank you, Aaron, because one of the things that we love so much about you is that you get a show with Aaron as well as a book. So thank you so much. Anybody, if you have questions, just drop them in the chat down below, and we'll pull them up and go through them. I do want to kick it off. Just exactly how much is a metric buttload?
Metric buttload. It's somewhere between a lot and a heck of a lot. Okay. It's one of, it's a 5th grade measurement. It's yeah, I think you have to probably be around 9, 10, 11, 12 to understand the science behind it. Okay. But it's a lot. It's a lot of monsters. Perfect. It's a lot of monsters.
So mentally 9, 12 years old will work too. Yeah. So I can use it.
Like if you're 9, 10 and I say 1 metric buttload of monsters, you require no measuring cups for that. You understand.
Perfect.
You understand. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I love the fact that you talked about D&D, because you are, in as many weeks, the 2nd children's author that has really celebrated playing D&D and how that's helped them write. And my daughter is 30 something, and she still every week, every Saturday night goes, and she and her husband go and have, D&D nights with their friends. And I no longer make fun of her. I understand it. So
yeah, it really was. I had no idea at the time, and no one, ever told me either. Like if I had known back then that I could grow up and become an author, that I could have gone and worked for the company that made Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I had no idea back then, but
Right.
those were real jobs. Like, I could have gone and done that. Like, kids like me need to hear stuff like that. They need,
Yes.
that's all they hear is, okay, you can go to college and be this, or you can go to college and be that, but that's not the path for everybody.
Exactly.
There are those of us, and it's usually the kids in 5th, 6th, 7th grade that are a little rowdy, that sometimes their excess of personality gets them into trouble. They're usually your creatives. They have the potential to go on and use all that energy for greatness. And it's our job as grown-ups to open their minds to the doors of possibility, to let them know, that game you love, you could go on to create that game. These books you love, you could go on to write books like that. That video game you love playing, you could go on to design video games like that. I think they need to hear stuff like that.
I think you're absolutely right. And I'm literally writing that down because it's a message that I think all of us adults need to remind ourselves of, right? That we need to share that with
You know,
the kids in our lives.
yeah.
So we do have a couple of questions that have come in.
Okay, hit me.
Lauren, this is a great question. So Miss Lauren would like to know, have you reconnected with Mr. Hunter to let him know the impact that he had on your life?
Good question. So there's a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is yes. The long answer is more fun, and it is that when I first became an author, I didn't really realize the impact that Mr. Hunter had on that journey. It wasn't until later, when I had a good number of books out, and I was doing a presentation similar to this, and I was talking about being a kid who hated books, and I kind of started asking myself that question, like, how does that happen? Like, how do you go from being a kid who hates books to becoming a grown-up who creates books for a living? Like, how in the world does that happen? And I really started to kind of mentally backtrack that journey in my mind. And when I backtracked it, it was then that I really was able to pinpoint it back to 5th grade year, and to two things: starting to play D&D, but before that, Mr. Hunter reading out loud to us. Those monumental changing turning points in my young life. And so I said, I need to tell him this. If he's still out there and still around, I need to tell him this. So I went on a hunt for Mr. Hunter. So I moved around a lot as a kid. We were in the Air Force, so I moved around. So I remembered I lived in New Jersey at McGuire Air Force Base, New Jersey, when I was in 5th grade. So I called the school and I said, hey, I was a student, years ago, and my teacher was Mr. Hunter. I'd love to get in touch with him. Is he around? And they're like, no, he retired years ago. And I'm like, well, do you have an address? And they're like, we do, but we're not giving it to you because you could be a psycho. And so I'm like, that's fair. That's fair. So I said, all right, here's the deal. I'm going to leave you a cell phone number if you wouldn't mind passing it along to him. I'm a former student. I'd love to reach out to him. So I figured, all right, I'm never going to hear anything about that. And 2 months pass. I'm walking down through the streets of Chicago, and my cell phone rings, and I pick it up, and it's this little old man. Hello, this is Richard Hunter. And it was Mr. Hunter. And I got to tell him, you probably don't remember me. He didn't, which I'm surprised, because, I was like the loudest one in the whole class. And I said, you probably don't remember me, but I was in your class, during this year. And you read to us every single day. You probably did that every year. You probably didn't think twice about it. It's just what you did because you loved books. I am a professional author of kids' books today, and it is because of you. You changed everything, not by all the stuff you taught us. I'm sure you taught us great stuff. Don't remember any of it. I'm sure we learned all kinds of amazing math. No knowledge of that at all. But I will never forget that you read to us out loud every single day without fail. You read one chapter to us, and that changed everything. You didn't just teach us, you inspired me. And that is what changes lives. And so we actually were able to connect. I was like, do you want to, email me? He didn't own a computer, didn't know what email was. So I'm like, all right, let's exchange addresses. We wrote for many years back and forth. And every time I had a new book come out, I autographed it and I put it in the mail to Mr. Hunter. And it was probably, I'm going to say about 3 years ago now, I got a phone call from his wife that he had passed. And so very sad, normal though, right? Happens. It's, he was at the age where, that was probably common. But she said, I'm so glad you reached out when you did, because you could have let that slide. You could have just thought about it and not done it. You could have, put it on the back shelf for another 10 years and then tried to do it. And she said toward the end, he wasn't remembering a lot, but your books showing up in the mail were always a huge impact to him. And so I was like, yeah, I was glad too that I had reached out when I did. So reach out when we all have that Mr. Hunter. We all have that person that made an impact to us, that did more than just teach us something. They inspired us. Reach out while you still can. It's really worth it.
And I love how that, you came full circle with that relationship, and you started that relationship with books and you ended that relationship with books. And that's just really beautiful. So
Yeah.
educators that I know are with us tonight, that's the impact that you have on these kids' lives.
Yeah. And it's not just, I'm going to throw this in if I may, you'll forgive me,
Yeah,
but it's
of
not
course
just,
I will.
it's not just the teaching. It's not just the facts. It's the little things that you notice that this kid likes this kind of book, and you put the next one in his hand, that you read out loud to him. I know Common Core and state, mandated testing doesn't give us time in our day to read out loud to kids. Most of us think we don't have time for that, or we'll get in trouble if we take time to do that. I'm going to go out on a limb and just say, let's be pirates. Let's just be outlaws. Let's just go for it. That one chapter that you take a day, that 10 minutes, 15 minutes will never add up to a lower test score for any kid in that room, but it will open doors and change lives in ways that you can't even imagine.
Yeah, amen to that. All right, so Miss Deb had a comment that I thought I would share.
Okay.
As a school librarian, I find Aaron to be so inspiring to all readers, but especially reluctant readers. I wish every kid had a chance to hear him speak about his books and his journey to reading and becoming an author. Awesome as always. Which I say spot on, right? But I do think that you really hit the nail on the head. And it's something that I know all of us here tonight preach, that, there's no such thing as somebody who doesn't like to read. There's absolutely somebody out there that hasn't found the book yet,
Yeah.
right? For you, it was Ramona and it was James and the Giant Peach. Those were the ones that hooked you. For those of us that are here tonight, we're going to turn around and hand Fart Quest off to these kids. And that could be the book that's going to make them read.
Yeah, I hope it is. I really hope. I think it's no adult goes to a kid and says, you're not a reader, you don't like books. They self-select out.
Yeah.
And it's because of us. It's because they do like books. And then they go pick up Dog Man because they're excited about Dog Man, or they go pick up Fart Quest and it's got the word fart in the title. And some well-meaning grown-up, be it a parent or an educator or whoever it might be, some coach, whatever, says, go get a real book. That has too many pictures, or you can read something better than something with the word fart in the title. And they self-select out. They say, okay, this adult is telling me that this doesn't count. This isn't a real book. And this is what I like. So I must not be a reader. And they self-select out. And we did that. Rather than being the one to say, you like Dog Man? Check out this new Dave Pilkey book. You like Creepy Carrots? Aaron has, you're older now, and Aaron has a whole series of chapter books that are perfect for you. And guess what the title is? Fart Quest. Because it's not, don't let the title be deceiving. My publisher and I had many talks about the title, and there were talks about how some adults are going to feel uptight about that. Some adults are going to say, "Oh, fart," and I said, I don't want to write a story that is just about a whole bunch of potty humor. I don't just want to write a fart gag book. I want to write a story that has got heart and yet still is funny, still has fifth grade appropriate potty humor that will propel a kid through the excitement of reading it. And so don't be deceived by books like that, and don't be deceived if you're a slightly uptight grown up, and that's, you know, that's fine, but don't be deceived, because behind the fart there is so much heart, and I hope you won't judge it before you taste it for yourself and see.
Absolutely. Well, Connor, who is with us tonight, and he is 8 years old, wants to know,
Connor in the house, 8 years old.
and he wants to know who or what the villain of Fart Quest 2 is.
All right, my man, Connor. So I am taking from that question that you have read Fart Quest 1. So you know the secret villain at the end of Fart Quest 1. We're not going to say, but it's not what we think when we go in. I'm going to say in Fart Quest 2, they are after a creature. Let me see if I can find a picture of it. A creature known as a bedazzler. And the great and powerful Kevin has sent them on this quest to retrieve the barf of a bedazzler because he needs its barf for some special magic stuff he's doing. So here's a picture of a bedazzler. You can see nightmarish, floating giant orb, big eye, little spikes with gems coming out. There's a monster very much like it in D&D. It's called a beholder, but this isn't a beholder. For legal issues. Yeah. So copyright, you know, we got to honor our copyright. So they go on a quest to find a bedazzler, and word is that there is a pirate king called Dire Maw the Dread. Nobody knows what he looks like. Nobody knows anything about him. All they know is he is one bad dude, and legend has it that he is the only known person that knows the location of a bedazzler. So they have to go find this dreaded pirate king, extract the location of the bedazzler, and then go find the bedazzler and extract its barf, it's puke, it's Ralph, it's spew. Yep.
Okay.
All right.
There we go. All right. And Lauren has another comment. Wow, such a great story. Good to remember that we never know the ways in which we're impacting students' lives.
True. That's so true. Yep.
Yeah.
Teaching can be so thankless. No kids are showing up going, "Thank you so much for teaching me so much on a daily basis." They're not saying that. So
No.
you think you're going day after day, year after year, and not making an impact. It's not true. It's not true. And you may never hear it back, but allow me to be an ambassador for all those kids that will never remember to come back and say so. You are making an impact.
Mhm. Absolutely. And Deb is absolutely going to steal your line about behind the fart is a great heart. So
Yes.
that's how she's going to be putting it in the hands of her readers.
Lots of heart behind the fart.
Yeah. And I'm stealing it too, just
Yeah.
FYI.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely. So you said there's 4 books. You've got 4 books done. How many do you have planned for this series?
We are waiting to see. Yeah, we've committed to 4.
Okay.
And then we're gonna see how it goes. You know, like publishers, like all people, have to watch that bottom line. And so they said we are all in. We love the idea. We love the stories. We're all in for up to 4, which is a huge commitment considering they committed to 4 before I wrote word 1. So they've been amazing and awesome, Macmillan. And so book 3 is in the hands of the artist right now. And I didn't mention him, but I need to. Amazing, incredible artist named Kendall. His art is just a whole nother character in this book. I mean, his storytelling through pictures is it just goes above and beyond. The way he uses the page, the way he has whole spreads of art, the way as they enter themselves into dungeons, how the pages turn dark and ominous and scary. So he is currently illustrating book 3. I finished it up last year, and I just handed in book 4. And it ends with the kind of conclusion that is a great story arc ending for these 4 books, but also has all the potential to take off for a book 5, 6, 7, and 8, should we decide to go there. So if you want more Fart Quest, the best way to ensure that, it's really simple math. The best way to ensure that any author that you love continues writing more books in a series is buy their books, pick up their books, preferably from an independent bookstore, because these are the people that know books, that love books, that want to put the kinds of books you love into your hands. You're not just an algorithm where they're saying, try this, try this, try this. They are saying, you liked this. I've got books that for you that the algorithm never dreamed of putting into your hand. Let me show them to you. So that's the best way to ensure that more farts come, more Fart Quest continues.
Yeah. And Connor, I'm going to put you back on the spot. You got to share them with your friends too, right? And I know you probably
Yes.
are. Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Brenda has a question. When will you have a new creepy book? She has students that are huge fans of Creepy Carrots and Creepy Underwear.
You said when, not if. Like, that's assuming a lot.
She did say when.
That's assuming a lot. Like, I never planned to write the second one. I never had plans to turn Creepy Carrots into a series. I wrote Creepy Carrots and was thrilled by how that one went, and was not going to write a sequel, and then got an idea from a kid at a school visit that I was at to write Creepy Pair of Underwear, and was still not really convinced about writing any further, even though kids were begging for more. But I will say that there is a third creepy book in the works. So it is currently being illustrated by the illustrious and amazing Peter Brown. And I don't know the release date on it yet. It could be as early as this coming fall, but it might mean next spring, depending on Peter and how long. Come on, Peter, how long does it take you to draw this stuff? Depending on him. But yeah, there's one in the works coming soon. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I will tell you that the color is black and white and purple.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. All right, so let's talk just a smidge about one of my favorites that you've done is The Incredibly Dead Pets of Rex Dexter.
Yes.
Do we have more of that series coming?
Let's see, I've got something here. So I have, yes, that is committed to be a series. We're doing 3 of them. I'm currently working on the 3rd one right now. In fact, this morning I wrote chapter 8 of the 3rd Incredibly Dead Pets of Rex Dexter. I'm holding in my hand not a finished book, but an arc of an advanced reader's copy of The Incredibly Dead Pets of Rex Dexter 2, Narwhal, I'm Around. And that is scheduled to come out, I think, early May. So if you love Drumstick and Rex and Darvish, Team Darvish, and all of the dead pet mayhem that is part of their lives, there's more of those adventures coming too.
Yeah. Oh, and Connor has chimed in on what he thinks the 3rd creepy book is.
Yeah.
And he thinks it's Creepy Grapes.
Interesting.
I like the way you think, Connor.
Interesting theory. You will have to wait and see. You'll get nothing from me.
All right. So what are you reading these days, Aaron, that you're really excited about?
Oh my goodness. I am, it's gonna sound super boring. But I have a guilty pleasure of John Grisham books. Most of what I read is kids' books, almost 99.9%. And I couldn't care less about the law and lawyers and stuff like that. But he's a really good storyteller, and he really knows how to do a fast-paced thriller. So I have been, during quarantine, like sometimes you're ready to read a brand new book that you know nothing about, nothing about the author. And sometimes, like, just in your soul, you need a sure thing, right? You need like an author that you love their stuff. So they've got a new book out and you're like, okay, they're sure thing. I know their stuff is good, so I'm going to read them. He's kind of been my sure thing. So I have been working my way through reading every single John Grisham book ever written over the pandemic. And I'm almost done. I think I've got 3 more, and I will have read every single book that he's written. So That's what I'm reading now. Not super kid friendly, but
Well, but he's got kid books. Have you read his kid
he
books?
does. He does. I have read 2 of his kid books,
Okay.
and I think he's better at writing for adults. In my opinion, but no,
That's
no.
okay. I thought the same thing. I
Yes,
thought the
yeah,
same thing. So
but he's brilliant. He's a brilliant storyteller.
yes. Yes.
So yeah, so that's what I'm reading these
I
days.
agree. I agree. So what else have you got kind of coming down the pipe besides Creepy Purple Book and besides Rex Dexter and besides Fart Quest? Anything else coming down the pipeline that you can
My
share with
goodness,
us?
is that not enough?
No, it's not.
I'm
We need
exhausted.
all the Aaron books. We need all the Aaron books.
I have been in Fart Quest and Rex Dexter mode for the last 3 years solid. When I signed the contract for Fart Quest and Rex Dexter, I signed them almost simultaneously. So in one fell swoop, I went from being able to write kind of whatever I wanted next, because I didn't have any, pending contracts, to suddenly having 7 chapter books that I had to write in the next 2 years. So I have been like this on Fart Quest and Rex Dexter. I was a little worried early on that having a set contract and having okay, these books have to be written, and by this time frame, that I was a little worried that, okay, because there's a deadline, like, oh gosh, what if I rush? What if I'm not happy with them? What if the muse doesn't speak to me? Not true. I am delighted with every single one of them. I've been thrilled to be able to say there isn't a single one of them that I've handed off to my publisher that I haven't been super excited about. And writing is like all jobs, you have to turn something in at school or turn something in at your job. You don't just, I'll get around to it when the muse inspires me. You show up and you do it and you get it done. So writing is like that too. I don't have to sit around and wait for the muse to inspire me. I can sit down and put my butt in the chair and no, I need to write a chapter today, or I need to write 2 chapters today, and I can get that done. And creativity. Pablo Picasso has an amazing quote that I'm going to butcher, but he says, "Inspiration is real. It's a real thing." I'm paraphrasing. Inspiration's a real thing, but it needs to find you already at work. And so that's how I've been thinking about it. Is I'll show up to my computer and my chair every single day, and I'll get to work, inspired or not. And inspiration has a habit of meeting me there, so it works out.
Nay. And we are all the better for having that inspiration find you, so that we can, like I said, take these books and share them with all the readers in our lives. So thank you.
I hope you guys will. I hope you do will. I truly can't tell you how much of my heart and soul is in the Fart Quest series. It really is. So I hope you love it as adult readers, but I hope your kids love it too. I hope it's contagious for them.
Yeah. Well, unless anybody has any other last questions, I think that we should all go and grab our copies of Fart Quest and curl up tonight.
Yeah.
That's what I know I'm going to do. I didn't get a chance to read book 2 yet, so it's sitting in my living room. Exactly what I was planning on doing tonight, and it's not just because you're sitting in front of me either. No. Yeah. All right. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us this evening, for sharing your love and enthusiasm for children's stories, but again, giving us books that just bring us joy, because we just need that right now. We need to be reminded that reading is fun, reading is contagious, and that's what your stories do for us. And we'd love to share that with the readers in our lives. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for Fart Quest. Thank you for everything that you've given us. And everybody that joined us tonight, thank you all for being here, because without you guys, Andersons wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be able to get you Aaron's book. So thank you all for coming. This was a lovely time. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. All right, everybody have a wonderful rest of your week, and look forward to seeing y'all at the next event. Well, sort of. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.